even when you can't see how or where, if you will just continue to let God be that rock of your foundation and trust in him, and then maybe ask the questions, what do you want me to learn in this? Versus it's not natural as human beings to want pain.
Hey, what's up, RESGEN fam? Tom Henderson from RESGEN here, and I want to welcome you to the Giving Life podcast, where each and every episode features an authentic, helpful, and meaningful conversation about being a man whose life in Christ gives life to others. And today's show is definitely going to be all of that and then some. But before I introduce you to my guest and we jump into the show today, I first want to let you know that tickets for RESGEN Men's Summit 2026 are now available. So, even though the summit isn't until February, I know it's a long way off, I'm going to encourage you to, after listening to the podcast today, to head to the RESGEN website, resgen.org, and get your tickets to join us at the summit. Why? Here's why. Because flat out, I don't want you to miss it. Seriously, every year, guys will text me and say that they waited too long to get tickets and they were sold out. And I don't want that to be you this year. Another reason is because I want you to already be thinking, okay? I want you to be thinking about, praying about, who are you going to bring to the summit with you? And it's always easier to invite somebody else when you've got your ticket in hand. So think, what 5, 10, 15 guys are you going to have join you so that they too can hear from speakers Tim Tebow, John C. Maxwell, and others, and be inspired to take huge steps in their walk with Jesus? So even though it's common for us as dudes, I get it, to wait until the last minute to commit to something, I want us to be uncommon and commit to joining us by getting your ticket for RESGEN Men's Summit 2026 today after the podcast at resgen.org. All right, now that we have that important announcement all wrapped up, let's get into today's episode. An episode where I am being joined by my longtime friend, Jeff Lautt. Jeff is a husband, he's a father, a grandfather, and a seasoned business leader who brings wisdom, humility, and his deep faith into everything he does. And on this episode, we are going to talk about so many great topics, including embracing leadership opportunities in wherever God has placed you, leadership lessons that Jeff has learned along his leadership journey, discovering where our true identity is found, overcoming adversity, and the importance of finding joy in the journey of life, especially during difficult times. Man, I am so pumped about this conversation that is ahead. So let's not wait any longer to get into it. Jeff Lautt, my friend. Welcome to the RESGEN podcast table.
Good to be here.
Oh,
Thanks,
man,
Tom.
This is so good, dude. I love it because the last time we had a conversation with kind of an audience in front of us, we were actually on your turf.
That's right.
We were at Poet earlier this year in January, and you were very hard up for people to come and speak to your people. So you reached out and
Not
said,
true.
Yeah, said, let's have a conversation. So thank you. I know how busy you are, and I'm so grateful that you said yes to taking some time to spend some time with me and listeners today, and I'm really excited about our combo. So thank you, first of all.
Well, I'm excited to be here. I really love RESGEN. I love the ministry, the passion that you have for it, and I've been able to see for a number of years now the impact that it has made to friends of mine, to strangers, and by and large to a community in a region, quite frankly. So if I can help out in a small way, I'm here.
Well, and I have no doubt this is going to be helpful. And so I think to start us off with, Jeff, this is going to be an introduction to some of the listeners as to who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe they've heard about the organization that you lead and that you've been at for quite some time. But maybe that Jeff Lautt is going to be a new introduction to you. So I'd love for you just to kind of introduce yourself, talk about your family, and then the role that you currently serve at in Poet.
Yeah, so I'm a South Dakota born and raised, SDSU. I got to get that in there.
Yeah,
I've got some USD listeners, some friends of mine.
Yeah, well,
so I'm a jackrabbit.
John Barker, a close mutual friend of both of ours, he said that you have really been able to find success even though you attended that community college up north.
Yeah, that sounds like something he was. I mean, what else is he going to say? I mean, there's nothing to back it up on the other end these days. But anyway, we'll that's another podcast.
That's another one.
So I started my career as an engineer. Did 14 years at a company that built fire trucks. Then God opened a door to Poet. Going on 21 years now.
Yeah.
I was a young dad at the time. I was kind of reluctant to consider the opportunity. But I was prayerful about it, consulted with some people who were close to me in my life at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and I made the leap. And while I knew it was a leap back then, I actually probably look back now and think of where I was then, because as I go, I just had my 20th anniversary earlier this year,
Mm-hmm.
and I think of, gosh, first of all, how much older I am,
Yeah.
how much life has changed.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
And then I put myself back to that time and point when I made that career change. And I think I am so grateful that I trusted God
Hmm.
to guide me on this part of my journey. And, while a lot of times we think of it as it's a career, and it is, and it's a job, and it is, it's really more than that. I mean, it's a significant part of my life.
Yeah.
And so the company was successful when I started, but much smaller. And I was able to join at a time when, uh, bioethanol was starting to become something really sustainable, significant for the country, the world, for
Mm-hmm.
agriculture. And so I joined at a really cool time. You don't know it at the time what it's
Right.
going to become 20 years later. And ironically, at the time, I remember I had some phone calls from people from my other company when I made the decision. There was headlines in the Wall Street Journal like, "Hey, this thing's going to be a gold rush. It's a boom bust." But I just kept kind of following what was feeling like the pull of my heart to join this organization, and really grateful to Jeff Lautt for giving me that opportunity. And it's been a one heck of a ride, and a lot has changed since then.
Yeah.
And both professionally and personally during that time.
Right, because now, I mean, obviously, you're the president of the company, and so when you first came in, though, 21 years ago now, right? 21 is that what you
In
said?
my 21st year,
20,
yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
So did you? What position was that? Did you feel like, man, that's quite a leadership jump? Did you feel prepared for that position, or was it like, man, I feel like the Lord's leading me to this? I don't know if I'm ready, but I'm going to step into it anyway. What was kind of
Yeah.
the vibe with you?
I knew nothing about ethanol or making ethanol. I mean, I had a lot of young roots from the farm. Both my parents and their families were farmers, so I spent a lot of time on the farm as a kid. Lived on a farm for a while, and so I had that, but nothing. Not this is like a biochemical processing. Ag markets, commodities were really different from what I came with. So, and I knew that, and Jeff said, "Hey, we'll teach you the business. It's your business leadership skills that are really looking forward to kind of employ here based on kind of where we're at." And he, honestly, he kept encouraging me to take time to learn the business, and I did. I spent the early days going out. We were doing plant startups, and I was out there with the frontline folks going through operator training and walking the plant, doing line tracings, jobs that I would never really have to do, but that were beneficial for me to understand.
Yeah.
And
Was that an initiative on your part, Jeff, to do that? I mean, because I think that, again, when you think about just leadership, a lot of times you just think, well, it's this office, it's this like title, right? So was that just something that was within you that said, well, if I'm going to be the leader of the organization, in what role were you brought in first? Let me ask you.
Yeah. So I was brought in as the head of all of our operations.
Okay.
And it was called the COO of the operations side. Today it's a little confusing because today my title is president and COO of the whole enterprise.
Yeah.
But I was of the division that was in charge of running the plants.
Right.
And so I just asked folks around me, some of my direct reports, hey, how do I learn this business? How do I learn some of these things? And I've always been a curious person, so I probably, flexed that muscle a little bit. And I like to learn things. I like to understand how things work, why they work the way they work. And so it's been pretty easy for me to always ask, like, I'm never threatened by somebody above or below me on an org chart. I don't ever hey, I shouldn't be asking that because I'm supposed to know more than you.
Yeah.
And so I'm pretty sure I asked some of my direct reports, how do I best learn this? And so here I am. I'm in Lake Crystal, Minnesota, sitting in a community center with 40 new team members that are about to run this plant in 2 weeks when it starts up. And I'm going through ethanol 101 class. and then, we're doing line tracings at the plant. And I thought it was cool. And here I am today. I remember that. I can kind of vividly recall sitting there, and the person doing the instruction was actually one of the folks that reported directly to me. So he was my teacher in the moment, and yet I was his leader on paper.
Yeah.
but it gave me a perspective of the culture,
Mm-hmm.
what it takes to operate a plant. These things sit out in the middle of the rural areas, and just like last night, we had some that were weathering the storms, and some that got affected by the storms, and cold days, hot, humid days. I mean, these things run 24/7. So it's a real commitment that our team members out in the field make, and it gave me a better appreciation for what that commitment is.
Well, and I imagine, I mean, in addition to that, I mean, what it shows this respect that you have for the people that are doing that work every day, and a lot of leaders, they come into spaces and it's almost like they're demanding respect for the title or the position
Mm,
because of the org chart.
yeah.
But, saying, well, okay, yeah, I understand. You mentioned the org chart. I understand that's what it says right now, but to be able to go and say, hey, I want to learn from you, show the respect to them, that can only help build the relationship that at the end of the day, I mean, as well as I do, leadership rises and falls on trust and relationship.
Yeah.
And so to be able to come in from the very beginning and say, hey, this is the kind of leader I want to be for you and who I am, not just like how I'm performing, but this is who I am. The amount of respect that they probably felt, I would imagine that had nothing but benefits.
Yeah. Well, yes, and I've always been a huge proponent. I probably, someone taught me this early, I'm sure. You don't just have these principles in your head, but I had some really good mentors for me early in my career.
Yeah.
Is leadership is not defined by title. Titles determine authority, and they determine responsibility. That's all that titles do. A leadership is earned.
Yeah.
It's earned through practice. It's earned through you said trust, and for displaying how are you through adversities, all kinds of things. Are you fair? Do you listen? Do you really make it about the team versus yourself? That's what starts to define somebody who can lead well. This got nothing to do with the title on the card.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people in positions of high authority who are terrible leaders. And there's a lot of people in positions with, an entry-level title or no title at all that are phenomenal leaders.
Right. Yeah, that's so good. And those are something that, and you're probably gonna hear me say, "Ooh, I want to go back to that a couple different times today," because one of the things that I do want to talk about with you is conversations that you and I have had over coffee that I want to be able to bring to this table of just the opportunity that, regardless of your position, to be a leader. And even just in the different stages of your life, because there's a lot of people that feel like, man, I don't have what it takes to be a leader. But I mean, as you know, there are a lot of people that maybe aren't even in the workforce that are providing the crucial qualities of leadership every single day that we don't want to turn a blind eye to. But I want to make sure that I get one question answer before I forget, because that's, you said you had some phenomenal leadership mentors in your life. And so one of the things that I just love to do is hear the way individuals, other leaders honor other leaders, because I think that's such a powerful thing for people to hear the way that they have impacted others. And I'm not sure if these people ever, hear this conversation between you and I, but I'd love to know, like, who were a couple of those leadership mentors in your life that you can just even, think of right now? And what was one of the two things that they taught you, either through like just sharing words with you or that you saw modeled?
Yeah. Well, one that comes to mind, and many people who I've talked to have heard me say George. George was a Polish immigrant. I think he came to the U.S. in 1945 at the age of 25. And he ended up starting a business that ended up becoming the business that ultimately we became a part of back in my fire truck days. And George was a hardcore entrepreneur, literally built this business out of a garage into this large publicly traded company that built fire trucks and ambulances and buses and RVs and all kinds of stuff. And he was a very principled guy. First and foremost, he was very faithful. Very, very strong family guy. Their family was everything to them. And I know that I did not fully appreciate the things that he was teaching me in my 20s and 30s. when he kind of took me under his wings. And they'd asked me to lead this company that I'd been at for 7 years. I was a really young guy, and needed a lot of help. And he just gave me a lot of words of wisdom in terms of like even how to just take care of the importance of taking care of your body and your mind. You know, I mean, who does that in corporate America?
Right.
It's usually about these are the goals I want you to achieve and the targets I want you to hit for the business. But the things about me as a leader were just as important. And then I just watched him model certain things too, you know, in terms of how he took care of himself, how he treated others. You know, I remember, this is a Georgism, and I got quite a few of these, is he'd always say, "Hey, Jeff, perspiration will always beat inspiration. If you're willing to outwork the other company, the other person, you will beat them." And what was that? That was about the value of hard work.
Yeah.
Right. And it wasn't to minimize education. He was an educated guy, and I was. It was about that you can be educated, but you got to back that up first and foremost with really hard work.
Yeah.
Or when you have adversity and you're willing to persevere through it, you will get rewarded for that, or you will overcome whatever you're facing. And he taught me a lot of things about just the importance of understanding the customer and how to interact people, how to put good people around you. And I could probably go on an entire podcast about George, but he was certainly one.
So when you talk about just like the idea of perspiration, you know, will beat inspiration or something like that. So, I mean, what would you say to someone that is like, what does that look like? Okay. So in your situation, like, so when you came into Poet, for example, you're like, okay, well, what that means is that I'm not going to just use my education. I'm going to go and I'm going to get my, you know, boots to the sand. I'm going to go and just start mixing with people. So if someone is an aspiring young leader, and, you know, it's easy to like read that on Twitter or hear it on a podcast and say, okay, so I'll just go and get busy. I'll just be busy. But busyness doesn't always mean production either.
Right.
Because we can be busy doing a lot of things. We can be sweating our tail off, but
Right.
not really necessarily, you know, perspiring the right way.
Right.
So as you, and I know that one of the things that we've just talked about is just even your passion for helping young leaders is, so like, what kind of advice do you give a young leader of just how to even perspire in the right way?
Yeah. Well, I think you bring up a really good point, because I've seen a number of people in my career, the entire career, two people in the exact same position, and one continuing to work 50 to 60 hours a week, creating certain results, one working 40 to 45 hours a week, creating even more results. And so there is it's not about just numbers, you know, more time in the field usually turns over more dirt.
Yeah.
But being effective about it, right? If you went out to the field and you zigzagged all over, there's an efficient way to plow a field, and there's an inefficient way to plow a field, or probably several inefficient ways to do it. And so I do think we want to use our mind along with our physical capabilities to create the best outcome. And so I think people who are resourceful and intuitive, all the while willing to sweat a bit, are the ones that end up becoming the high producers, high performers, high output folks. And I would say to young people, if you're kind of banging your head against the wall and something, kind of feeling like, geez, I just can't feel like I'm getting ahead, maybe step back and say, how am I doing it? Is there a better way? Because if you think about the evolution of the world, which includes companies and individuals alike, we evolve in productivity. It's one of the key measurements of economic output is productivity. How do we become better? All this talk right now about AI is all about how we actually can do the same or more with less people. And that doesn't mean we put people out of work. It means we redeploy them into areas where they can actually do more things for the world, and the world itself can advance in terms of the things that it's accomplishing.
Yeah, because I think there is that question now of saying, well, what do I even go to school for? Because is this job going to be replaced by AI by the time I graduate?
Yeah.
And I think there is a lot of just kind of, and obviously it's a little bit still quite unregulated. That's still like, I mean, how do you trust, is this AI? Is this even real and all that? But like those types of things. But what AI can't do is they still can't have that human connection that other that two people can have, and that
Mhm.
that relationship building and the ability to work together in that way that comes with person to person, teamwork and interaction and so forth. So as you think, just as in your leadership journey, Jeff, and I mean, you've accomplished a lot. I mean, you've been very successful, and the pull of the world's definition of success is on all of us. Um, and so for you, how have you've talked about how even just when you went into the position of poet, how God led you to that position, and that you really strive to say like, okay, man, I believe that God is leading me here. How have you been able to stay rooted in your relationship with Christ and being a faith-driven leader and not fallen into a trap? And I mean, it's always a tug of war. I think that it's simple for us to fall into a trap if we're not careful, of defining success by the world and placing our identity in that versus our identity as a follower of Christ.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot there to unpack.
Yeah.
I think when you say success, I almost kind of cringe or at least kind of pause a little bit, because that word, I think it can take on so many meanings and so many distorted views of what's important.
Yep.
And I have all adult children now, and so I've had thoughts around this, in the last few years. Is how do my children view me now? When they're young and you're raising them and you're taking them to baseball games or throwing ball in the back or going to dance recitals or whatever it is you're doing, their view of dad is very innocent. But now they're out in the world and they're raising their own families. They're working and if you asked them and they thought, yeah, I think dad's successful, I would be very interested to know as to why.
Yep.
And I hope it's not because of my title,
Yep,
or my exposure, or maybe some of the financial success that I've had. I would hope that it's because of the growth of my character, how I was able to balance providing for the family, making a difference in a company that's very important, all the while being true to who I was, and not ever sacrificing my relationship with God or the faith for the family and those types of things.
yep,
And because that is, as the older I get, the more I realize that that's actually the legacy. That's the only legacy that matters. What we do as an organization is infinitely important
100%.
and will be for generations to come. And there will be other people who will do what I'm doing or what others are doing today that will carry that on. But my greatest opportunity is to bestow and to leave the right examples of character, hard work, faith,
Yeah.
and the priorities of how you set those in your life with my children. And then now I have 8 grandchildren.
Yeah.
So now I see like these just innocent children that have a kind of a blank slate in terms of how they see the world, in terms of how they want to go about their lives. And so I'm very open with them about everything, whether it's prayer, whether it's I'm sending out regular devotions to them, and who's reading what, I don't know, but that's they've got to have their own God-led life as well, right? Just like we all do. And so I think there's work and career is not separate from faith and spiritual life. They are one and the same.
So good, Jim.
It's very clear in the Bible that work is a very important part of our life. God wants us to work. He wants us to be purposeful. He wants us to use the talents and abilities and the energy and the physical capability He's given us, or our minds, to make a difference. But that's a season of life. And it doesn't define our life. Thankfully, on your question of identity, I don't know that I can't say that I've never not felt like maybe part of it, but I've never, I might struggle with a lot of other things, but identity and what I do, it doesn't define me as a person.
Yeah.
I would hope my identity is more about who is Jeff as a person, And is that consistent with how he is, at home with his wife, with his kids, with his grandkids, at work, in the community? Am I consistent in how I am with that? And if you asked people from all those categories, who's Jeff? Does it look and sound the same?
Yeah. Yeah, that's so good. And I asked the question specifically in that way because, again, when a lot of times as Americans specifically, when we hear the word success, our mind automatically goes to however we define it, right? But a lot of times as Americans, it becomes title, vehicle, house, paycheck, whatever, right? But you and I both know that none of that is what we want to be remembered for. And one of my good buddies, he always talks about how it's like, listen, if you want to be a successful man, now obviously if you're married or whatever, this would follow that. But if you want to be a successful man, go home and love your wife. Go home and lead your kids. And continue to be the same person regardless of whether you're at home or at work or out in the community.
Yeah.
And that is, who I know you as. And there's the lull of the world, the pull of the world is real. I mean, it is. I have meetings with guys all the time that the pull is very strong to make our life about something else. And that doesn't mean that we don't go and do our best and that we don't, try to, even attain new positions at work. No, do all of that, but let's not sacrifice what's truly at the end of the day, the most important thing. And that's our relationship with God, our relationship with our family, and those that in our community that God has called us to lead. And so I love that you said, "Ooh, I almost cringe when I hear that," because and I think that's an accurate, even just a response, because of so much of success is determined really with such a narrow view at the end of the day. And the hardest thing is how do we change that?
Yeah.
Like what you're talking about is legacy. So if you can help instill that in your kids and your grandkids, which I think that's probably where it starts for each one of us, but you think as a culture, like how do we even change the way we define success in America?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a golf fanatic. And just like everyone, always chasing to get a little bit better, but it's really about the experiences you have with friends, family, that out in God's nature. And recently was the British Open, and I saw an interview of Scotty Scheffler, number one in the world. Right? Did you see this?
Yes.
Wasn't that great?
Yeah.
And he goes, look, I don't play this sport to make a difference in the lives of others. That's not why I'm here. I love to compete. I can't explain to you why when I come into a Masters tournament, I want to win so badly. Because the reality is, he goes, if I do win, that moment of joy is gone like in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's probably not 2 minutes. It's probably like maybe a few days.
Yeah, sure.
Then but reality, if you're in his shoes, and he's just an average dude, he's a dad now. People are saying, well, what are you going to do next? But can he win this one now? And can he win that one now? And he said, I love this. I'm so blessed to be able to compete at such a high level and have the success I've had. But he goes, if this ever gets in the way of the relationship with my son or my wife, it'll be the last tournament I ever play. And what I thought when I heard his interview was, see, you are making a difference in the lives of others. Because for any young person or anybody who listened to that interview, they're going to understand he's keeping it in perspective, which is something that so many professional athletes struggle with.
Yeah. And Jeff, that's such an important thing because that was probably viral on TikTok within seconds, right?
Yeah.
I'm not a TikTok guy. You're a TikTok guy though, right?
No, I'm not.
You're not a TikTok guy?
No.
Okay, I thought you had a TikTok or with grandkids. Snapchat?
Snapchat.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Snapchat, yes. And I'm dangerous with
You
it.
snap with your kids and stuff.
Yeah.
That's what it is. You're a snap guy. So I don't have either of those ones.
I'm trying to stay up with my grandkids to communicate with them. Yeah.
That's so funny. But, and it's easy to say, and I love that you bring up Scotty Scheffler because I watched that several times, and then you watch the video of his little 2-year-old or whatever, trying to walk to him and, whatever. Yep. And I didn't know you were there. That's so fun. But the reality is sometimes it's easy to look at that and say, okay, well, he's got that platform. And so if I had that platform, I could do that too.
Yeah.
But the reality is we all have a platform.
Yeah.
Now, we may not have a bunch of news cameras. We may not have the top leadership position at the place where we're employed, but we all have a platform with someone. And, especially for husbands and dads that have kids at home, I mean, that's your most important platform. And then you can say those things. It wouldn't mean anything if Scotty just said that and then didn't live that out.
Right.
Now, obviously, we don't know but he said that actually a couple tournaments in a row where he made some of the same statements.
Yeah.
And so, and you could just tell, like, this dude's telling the truth. And he's not just saying words, he's backing it up with his actions.
Mm-hmm.
And so for us to even think about it, I mean, for listeners and viewers out there to be like, okay, so what's my platform? And maybe that's a question that is worth some reflection on all of our parts today, is to say, okay, what is my platform? And then as God reveals some things to us, then the second question is, am I using that effectively?
Yeah.
Because I don't know about you, Jeff, but I feel like we move through life at such a fast pace. And I know that, as we get older, and I know we're supposed to slow down. Sometimes I know I should slow down, but one of the things we just don't do well in our fast-paced culture is reflect.
Right.
And think back. And even when I asked you the question about identity and success and all that, you said one of the things I've just really been thinking about is like, okay, so what are my kids, my grandkids? What would they say? Right.
Yeah.
And we often don't take time to really think about that.
Yeah.
Is, okay. I mean, my boys, they're, Chase is 21 now. Isaiah's 24. And so I'm the adult kids route. And, I hope they say, man, my dad just loves God, loves people.
Yeah.
Loves spending time with me. Hopefully I got, grandkids someday that I can,
right.
do all the stuff that you're doing. But the role of reflection is something we probably all need to spend a little bit more time embracing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You said reflect more. It made me think of something that I had read years ago, and I don't remember where this was, but they had done a survey of a lot of people in their 90s, so people who had lived a lot of life. And they said, looking back now at your life, what would be the top things that you would do different or tell your younger self? And the top three answers was number one, they would have taken more time to stop and reflect along the way. Number two is they would have taken more risk. And number three is they would have spent more time with family.
Mm-hmm.
So why do we think, my parents are in their 80s now, and the thing they say to me is, I don't know, Jeff, I feel like I just woke up and I was 80. Like, where did life go? So why are you or I or anybody else listening today think that life's going to be much different? And so what are you waiting for? If you've had that thought, that idea, on whether it's a career change, whether it's a good deed you want to do for the neighbor, or if it's you want to get involved with your church, whatever that thing that God's calling you to do, don't ignore those little kind of whispers or chatters. Explore them.
Mm-hmm.
What's the worst thing that can happen? You tried something, you learned something, it didn't work out. You know why? Because so many people are worried about failure.
Yeah.
Because again, this whole success and what the world defines as success and failure, we're not on the world's measuring stick. We're on God's. And
that's good.
I think you were talking about this. I had kind of a visual back to this kind of how the world defines it, and I had a picture of a building, like a big stone building, and I thought, well, there's the pillar when you come in the front door, right? And it's composed of its components, and it's the thing that people always see, and they go, "Ooh, maybe that's a beautiful pillar." Or how about like the cathedral here in town? You walk up those front steps and you see, well, that's the beautiful. But has anybody ever gone around to the back and looked at that little stone in the back corner that's actually kind of very important to holding up the whole cathedral?
Mm-hmm.
No. But that's like the kingdom of God, because we are all stones supporting an important part of God's kingdom, but we're not always out front.
Yeah.
We're not always out front, but we're still a very important part.
Yeah. That makes me think about just even, okay, so a lot of times the biggest decisions, the big column out front that you talk about, some of the biggest decisions that are often the most celebrated or scrutinized, right? And I feel like that their lives and leadership are really made up of kind of some of those small choices and decisions that in many ways have been even more important and that have helped shape us and people's lives that we're leading and that are just a part of our lives. So, um, Jeff, are there maybe some small choices or decisions that you made early on in your leadership journey or along the way that have really actually been big decisions when you look back on it, or that helped make, the big decisions easier?
I see a couple things come to mind. I've always surrounded myself with at least a couple of people
Hmm.
that are that my qualifications are people I know and trust, people who I think have good values themselves, have some type of faith, but most importantly, people who I knew would have my back, but be honest with me,
Hmm.
because especially as you rise up an org chart,
Hmm.
it's difficult to find people who will be brutally honest with you. Maybe talk about your blind spots, maybe challenge you or check you on some things,
Hmm.
and we all need it.
Yeah.
We all need it. In the higher you get in places of authority,
Hmm.
the harder that is to come by,
Hmm.
for all kinds of reasons. So I've had that all pretty much the entire duration of my career. I've had people in my life, and now I'm part of I currently have been a part of a men's group for about 8 years. That's just been phenomenal guys. All have made a difference in my life in one way or another.
Hmm.
All men of faith and husbands and worldly successful in
Sure.
their trades and everything that they've done, but genuinely care about me, and
Hmm.
and that's reciprocal, and so that's been important. I think that um, I when I turned 30, I think it was probably again a bit of the Spirit was probably moving me. I decided to read Purpose Driven Life,
Oh yeah.
and that became kind of like the light of the fuse. Like I was a Christian prior to that, but that really started to become this never-ending seeking of a journey of what's the purpose of my life and how can I make a difference.
Hmm.
And so that still exists today, just continuing to peel the
Hmm.
onion back. And so I think being a curious person, learning from people, reading, listening to podcasts, I mean, just always kind of seeking information, making sure that I don't live in a bubble,
Hmm.
challenging my status quos of what I'm thinking. Those would be key things.
Hmm. Well, I love that, you started in talking about the power of those, I call it difference between like real friends and deal friends.
Yeah.
And I kind of unpack that a little bit this last year at the summit this past year, where we just talk about, as men, sometimes it's easy to just have deal friends. Like, hey, you do this for me, I do this for you.
Yeah.
Um, they're transactional,
Yeah.
right? But those real friends, where it's, listen, they'll challenge you, they'll counsel you, and they're committed to you.
Yeah.
And those are the friends that are kind of transformational, that will help us, like that, and just help us see blind spots, ask us good questions as to why we're doing. You're a great question asker. Like, when you and I have coffee and breakfast together, and you call me on the carpet on stuff and say, hey, what are you thinking about in this, in your marriage? And what about this for the ministry? And just, how are you personally? It seems like you're running hard or whatever, right? We need those people in our lives. And I, and that's just when things are good, but also those relationships are so key in times of adversity. And you've mentioned that word a couple times
Mhm.
already. So I want to jump to that, to just, when you think about different adversity that you've had to overcome in your life.
Mhm.
The reality is just because you're walking with Jesus, life is not going to be all smooth seas. You can read
Right.
tons of stories in scripture about the disciples being caught in storms.
Right.
They were right they were physically walking with Jesus, right? And we live in a world full of storms in our lives and adversity that we have to face, whether it be professionally, relationally, familially, if that's a word. So what, as you've had times of adversity in your life, Jeff,
Mm.
um, what are some of the ways that, or maybe tools, skills, some things that have been important for you in overcoming that adversity, and then what role has God played in those for you as well?
Yeah. Um, Good question. And I was kind of processing, various.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of adversity, some mild, some more material.
Yeah.
Something that a lot of people don't know about me is I've pretty much lived on my own since I was 16, and that was quite frankly, it was a personal choice. My dad had an 8th grade education, and then left school to work on the farm in North Dakota, like a lot of boys his age did back at the time. But then later in life decided to go get a GED and a 2-year tech degree, which was, I'm really proud of him to do that. Showed me that's never too late, right, to accomplish a dream or a goal. But that pulled him out of Watertown where I was going to school, and I had 2 years left, and I just really did not want to finish somewhere else. I had friends and community I'd grown up in, and so sparing a lot of details, came to an agreement that I would stay in Watertown. And so I was working to raise myself, but that was difficult. Married at 19 with instant kids, had 2 more pretty quickly, of my own. And so I became an instant dad. When I tell people I had my last child at 23, they're going, geez, I haven't even thought about, I'm just getting out of college.
Yeah.
So I had to grow up pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Career wise, then just a lot of took a lot of risk and a lot of adversity there. When I was first promoted to lead the fire truck business, it was headed towards a really bad place, and we probably had about a year to turn it around, or I was going to be looking for something different, and we did, thankfully. And then the career changed to poet, but there's been other personal, adversities along the way, whether that be loss and getting remarried and putting a blended family together, and I just couldn't be happier than where I'm at today with a partner in Julie. That we've got an amazing 6 kids, 8 grandkids. We do life together. And I think, if I think back to all of those, when you're in the middle of a storm, it's really hard to see, like last night, right? If you're here in Sioux Falls, it's like, wow, like this, you kind of get like a little, and I've seen a lot of storms, you go, oh, this could get bad.
Yeah.
I'm checking on all my kids and grandkids. How you doing? But you know what? Look at the sun is shining today. And there's always will be clear skies. There will be. Even when you can't see how or where, if you will just continue to let God be that rock of your foundation and trust in him. And then maybe ask the questions, what do you want me to learn in this? Versus it's not natural as human beings to want pain.
Yeah.
It's not.
Right.
And so nobody says, give me some adversity. I'd love some more. Man, that wasn't enough. I want a bigger dose of that. We all like clear skies. But the reality is, if you live enough life and you look back and you say, it really is those moments of adversity that shape who you are, if you allow it to.
Yes.
Don't miss the opportunities of adversity to improve and grow your character.
Yeah.
And that's probably how I see things different today. When I was 20 years ago, I probably said, just get rid of this, make it go away. Now it's like, okay, I don't love it, but I am mature enough now to say, what am I going to learn here?
Yeah.
And what's God doing with me right now? And how's this going to make me a better husband, a better dad, a better leader?
Yeah, and it sounds trite to say it, but we've seen the bumper sticker or the tweet that says something like, times of adversity specifically, or difficulties, challenges, whatever you want to label it as. They can either make you bitter or they can make you better, right? And it sounds trite to say that, but there's really a lot of truth to that. If we can pull ourselves away from as just one step and saying, okay, I'm going to take a deep breath, I'm going to process and say, okay, God, what? Number one, I recognize your presence. Right. And so I think about the person that maybe is going through some adversity right now. And as well as we've been on kind of a journey with Laura's neck, and just a lot of just kind of trying to figure that whole process out, where she's in pain a lot of time, and we would not choose the kind of pain that she's in, and we're seeking great medical care and all of that kind of thing. But what we found in that is that we've just continually said, what we want to do is we want to, number one, recognize the presence of Christ, that we're not going through this alone. And then be thankful then not only do we have the presence of Christ, but that we have the presence of a community, which goes back again to, you talked about just having other dudes in your corner, right? That you say, man, I'm not going through this alone.
Right.
And one of my good buddies, Jason Van Ruler, he talks about how that it's that circle of people that can do one of two things when you're down in the pit. And all of us have pit days.
Yeah.
Okay? We all have pit days. And you can have people that say, okay, you know what? We'll set up camp and we'll just stay here. Or we're going to build a ladder and help you get out. And so what I've just found in my own life, as I'm listening to you, is just being able to step away, and which is not easy, because sometimes it's easier to just kind of whine and then commiserate. And there's a place for saying, okay, this is hard. This is hard, cry out like David in the Psalms. Sometimes, 100 of the Psalms are laments, but after the lament, oftentimes comes, a psalm saying, but I know you're with me.
Mm-hmm.
And God, I'm not going through this alone. And so that is such and that takes some maturity.
Mm-hmm.
And it comes easier when you've walked with God longer. But man, I don't think there's any more joy that can be found in a painful journey than recognizing that you're not doing it alone.
Yeah.
So as you think about what would you say to someone that is in it right now? I mean, they are in the storm. They're in a real big challenge. How can they find some joy in the journey?
Well, if they're not doing this already, first and foremost, open up that Bible and read the truth. I mean, there's what friends can say and all that is really good and very helpful, but there's nothing more important than the living word. And then I would say, spend time in prayer along with that word. Read and pray. Force yourself to be in some quiet time.
Force yourself. That's a good word right there.
Yeah. I mean, we don't like silence. I mean, you think about it. We're on our phones. We're listening to this. We got TVs on. We got music. I mean, we just force yourself to just really get into quiet space. I've had to do that at times in my life, and it's uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Just to really sit, like almost kind of time yourself. Like I'm going to sit here for an hour in this complete quiet space away from everything, and maybe not even try to think. Like almost force yourself to just listen to whatever God might want to say to you, and clear the mind. And if nothing else, it's a great meditation session, which is good for you from a stress standpoint. Everybody has a different social circle. But if you're somebody who has a healthy one, lean into it. I think by and large, a lot of us are terrible at reaching out saying, I'm kind of struggling. I could really use a friend right now. Can you chat on the phone, or can we get together for coffee? And if you don't have one, build one quickly. Even one or two, just build one of those two, or people that you can really know and trust, and have some conversation with. I've seen read all kinds of studies lately that just the importance of social health is on our physical health and our longevity. I just read this thing that they did a study. I don't know how they do these studies, but they said the rating or the quality of your social health at age 50 is directly tied to your physical health at age 80.
Wow.
And so I think there's a reason God puts people in our lives.
Totally.
So don't shut them out.
Yeah.
And if you're not part of a church, I mean, if you don't I don't know where to find them, then you go to the church down the road, or join a church, or go to the church that you maybe haven't been to in a while. There's a reason why there's community. Community is, so important. We are not meant to be alone, and God puts people in our lives. And then I think just be patient. If you trust in God and you do all those things, the storm will be over when He wants it to be over. When you've learned, maybe if it's not over, you could be asking yourself, what lesson have I not learned yet that He wants me to learn?
Yeah.
But also be resourceful then. Okay. So it's one thing to say, well, I don't know, I'm broke and I just can't pay the bills. I'm like, well, are you looking for a job?
Right. Yeah.
Have you tried to get some training? Have you done?
Yeah.
Help yourself? That's the point. Is be resourceful. Use the capabilities that God gave you. Lean into those. Take some risk, and I'm certain that the storm ends and bluer skies are behind it.
Yeah. One of the exercises that I've done with guys at times is kind of like a life mapping exercise. I'm sure you've done one of those a time or two in your life where you just say, okay, like it's you put however long you live, you got, for me, 0 to almost 50 now, 50 coming up here in December. But, and you just say, okay, here's high points, here's low points, here's high points, and then you connect all that, right? And what you realize when you step back and you look at it is you say, there is a rebound. It's high. You don't always stay at the high. You don't always stay on the mountaintop. We don't live our lives on the mountaintop, right?
Nope.
And there's a low, but you know what? We don't live our lives in the valley either. And then recognizing, man, sometimes the rebounds are big, or take a little longer. Sometimes they're quicker, but looking back on that again, take some reflection time. It reminds you of just, okay, you know what? God has been faithful. And sometimes it's like you don't even realize the faithfulness of God until you look back. Because there's a lot of times, I'm sure, in your life, like when you were not necessarily walking real close to Christ, you're making some boneheaded decisions. I made several boneheaded decisions in my history. I'm not gonna say you did, but I did, where you can look back and say, man, God was watching out for me even then when I didn't, quote unquote, even deserve it. And I mean, I don't deserve his grace now, but like to look back and be like, oh man,
yeah,
man, God was with me back then too.
Yeah. You said something that reminded me of something I say to our team at Poet a lot, because we're a commodities business, a lot of volatility. It's impossible to predict the future. And sometimes we can have some real wild swings. Sometimes those swings can be up and really fun. Sometimes those swings can be down, like COVID. Yep. When all of a sudden, nobody was driving, fuel markets drop by 50%. They can be really wild. We can have droughts. All kinds of scenarios. And I've said several times that, hey, just remember, because, people are looking to, like Jeff and I as leaders then to provide some perspective, is say, hey, when things are really up, just remember the good times never last forever.
Yeah.
So also be careful the decisions you make in those times. When you're at the bottom, just say the bad times never do either.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't live our entire life in the valleys. We also don't live them at the mountaintops. There's ups and there's downs, and that is the way of life. And that is that journey that we talk about. And so find the moments of things you can either learn, or the moments of enjoyment or respite along the way, because there's going to be these ups and downs. It's in all aspects of life.
It's just reality. And one of the things that I think that Laura and I have really been leaning into as of late is two other things in addition that you talked about. And one is just speaking gratitude and saying, man, even though this is a challenging season, let's just say it's a season of life, but even still with that, here's what we have to be grateful for.
Yeah.
And we're just, and we focus on those things. We speak those, man, God, we're so grateful for this. Yeah. We're grateful for this, because even that, it takes your mind off of what maybe you're sorrowful about.
Yeah.
And that's not like pushing it under the rug. That's not saying it doesn't exist, but saying, but even still, even though this is going on, God is still good. And I'm still grateful for this. And then the other thing that we really said we really want to double down is praying more for others.
Yeah.
And just because, again, when you take the focus off yourself, and you say, listen, I just I'm not going to be selfish in my prayers. I'm going to be, God, man, would you just bless Jeff and Julie on their, vacation, right?
That's right.
Or in, or in their relationship with each other or kids or whatever, right? I mean, just, and begin to fall in love with praying for other people.
Mm-hmm.
And having God meet them wherever they're at, whether it's a mountaintop that they're on right now or they're in a valley. Yep. And the power in that is just, I think, just huge.
I said that's a sermon I heard last week. And Julie and I were sitting in church at St. Mary's here in town, and that's what he said is, if we can have this list of people to pray for, and then it can get daunting because the list can get long. But he says, but what if everybody just took one person each day from their list, just one, and prayed? Imagine the power of prayer in the world on that day, and then the next day if they did it again.
Yeah.
And I'd say one thing, if I could inject some humor. I don't know if this is appropriate for your podcast.
I'm sure it is.
But I have another suggestion. If you want to really develop some patience around adversity and all of this, become a Vikings fan.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a lifelong Vikings fan. I know, Tom, you are too.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you,
Now I'm in the valley. Now I'm in the valley, Jeff.
So it's yeah.
Yeah, but as preseason kicks off here shortly, and I know that when this episode, I mean, maybe when this episode drops, we'll still have hope. Okay, because when this episode drops, we won't be too far into the season yet. But yes, that is. We know the ups and downs as lifelong Vikings fans, which at the end of the day, if we've learned nothing from being Viking fans, we've learned long suffering. That's what we've learned. You know, the Lord has taught us long suffering by being Vikings fans.
Yeah. My wife just reminded me the other day. She goes, "Oh, here we are. It must be preseason because you've got this fountain of hope." Right. And it's just, she goes, it's so fun to watch. Every year we go through the same cycle.
He's so cute when he's hopeful.
But in all seriousness, I've actually thought about this because you get frustrated and you think, why do I care so much? And I think, how when they win that Super Bowl, because I believe they're going to win one in my lifetime.
Please, yes, I believe you.
What, it'd be like the Scotty Scheffler.
Oh.
What do I have? 2 minutes of joy. And then what am I going to do? Walk around with a shirt on that said, hey, we finally won one.
Yeah.
And everybody, laughs and goes, well, it's about time. And so it's not my trophy.
Yeah.
It's entertainment.
It is. And the reality is, and you know this, is that like the Scotty Scheffler thing, you hear it when an NBA championship is done, the Super Bowl, they say, okay, are you going to come back next year? You're going to repeat next year? You're going to three-peat? Are you going to whatever, right? And it's, well, we're going to enjoy this for the next 24 hours.
Yeah.
And then we'll get back to work the next day.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if that is not like and that's where we're going all the way back to the beginning when we were talking about success is it's never enough.
Yeah.
It's one more championship. It's one more position. It's one more vehicle. It's one more. So if our definition is only that, we will never understand true fulfillment.
Here's what I believe in the years that I've lived and the lessons I've learned along the way is when we talk often, the joys in the journey, whether you're a professional athlete, whether you're leading a group like RESGEN or you're, at a company like myself, Poet, in a leadership role, it's the difference we make in the lives of the people along the way. That is the success.
Yep, totally.
It's the deposits we've made in their lives, the people God surrounded us with. Mm-hmm. And those are the trophies. Mm-hmm. Those are the kingdom trophies mm-hmm. that are eternal, right? Because God says in the Bible, store up treasures in heaven. Will make a difference in the life of others, wherever you're at.
Yeah.
If you're bagging groceries at Hy-Vee, I used to be bag groceries when I was in high school, mm-hmm. and you do something nice for an older lady, and you make her smile, you make life easier. You just did a trophy. You just put a trophy on the shelf.
Totally. That's exactly right. And I mean, that was one of when I was privileged to come and speak to the leaders of Poet, last year and share my message called, we find life-giving success by giving life to others.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's just what you just talked about, Jeff, is that when we give life to others during the day, regardless of our position, regardless of where we're at. So like that, and that is something that's a mindset, that's a focus that a stay-at-home mom or dad can have. That's mm-hmm. a focus that someone who is, on the lowest rung on the ladder or the highest part of the totem pole, or however you want to put it, is that we all have the power every single day to influence others either positive or negatively.
Yep.
And regardless of where we're at in the org chart or wherever, when we go home and we lay our head on the end of the pillow, it's not what's in the garage that makes us feel successful.
Right.
That gives us life anyway, right? I mean, it's like, okay, we're successful, whatever, by the world's definition. But what gave us life is knowing we made a difference in that person's life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what helps me understand like what my life is to be about. And it helps you sleep well at night because you gave someone else life today that they desperately needed.
Yeah. So the game we should all be playing is competing for who can make the most amount of differences in the lives of others. And if the world would do that, just imagine the move towards peace and love that we would have.
For sure. Let me ask you this, because we're going to wrap up here in just a few minutes, but one of the things that you talked with me about the last time we had coffee together was this book called Living Life Backwards. And I know that this was something that you had. I mean, it was at the end of our conversation. We both had to blaze out and get out of and get to work. But we were talking about it. And you said, "Man, I've been reading this book, dude. It's like really good. It's kind of rocking me a little bit." So I just loved it. I was like, well, I want to know more about it. And you and I haven't been able to chat since then. So I just want to know, like, why has that been such a great read for you? What was like a nugget or two out of that, if you can kind of, narrow it down to that? But what were some of those principles in that Living Life Backwards book that had such an impact on you that made you want to bring it up, as we were ending our time together at the coffee shop?
Yeah, great question. Well, first, I would be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to a good friend of mine, Eric Unig.
Oh yeah,
who recommended the book to me. He's one of the guys in my men's group that I love, and that's the benefit of having those relationships, right? Yeah. He's like, hey, I'm going to share something that's really moved me, and so I listened to it, and it's nice because it's quicker than a lot of other books, shorter. I'm actually on my second or third time now in like the last 60 days of listening. It's just that good. Like I want to like almost finish it and then start over again and listen to it again. But I think, first of all, it's based on the book of Ecclesiastes, which is my favorite book in the Bible. Written by King Solomon, who God said, I'm going to give you more wisdom and wealth than anybody who had ever lived or ever will live. So when I read Ecclesiastes, it's like, well, this is the wisest human other than Jesus, who was God in the flesh, that's ever lived. So he's got my ear.
Yeah.
And I think it takes, we talked a lot about the things that the world can get people focused on and twist what's important. And with this book, it just really challenges you to simplify. What are you prioritizing in your life, right? Who's going to be in the front two pews at your funeral and my funeral? And ask yourself, for example, how much time are you spending with those folks? What are you doing? And if you have a failure, does a failure matter to God? No, it matters. The world kind of makes a thing out of certain failures. By the way, God doesn't really care too much about our successes either, unless we're defining those successes as making a life in the difference of others or praying for somebody or loving somebody. Those things he cares about. Yeah. Talks about the seasons of life, and I think probably with where I'm at in my age and perspective and really enjoying adult children and grandkids, it's allowed me to kind of step back and challenge, where am I placing importance? How am I spending my time? What would I want to do with the time I have left? So that's the whole point. It says the thesis of the book is we all kind of live life forward, and not a lot of people want to spend too much time thinking about death. It's not a fun thing to think about. Right. And so, but it said, if you actually acknowledge that you are going to die and you live life backwards, how would you do that? It's like, and a way to test that is if you ask someone, I've done this to myself, and probably to say like, if next week isn't fair, because that's kind of like immediate. Yeah. But if I said, you have a year, Tom, you have a year to live. How will you live differently in the next year than you're currently living now? And, we have obligations to meet and all that, but the whole point is to say, it really gives you a perspective on the one equalizer that we all have, the one value, that we have is time. That's the most precious commodity God gives us, and how we spend that time. And I kind of feel like, there'll be an accounting to that. It's like when we get to heaven, it's like, well, what did you do with your time? Yeah. Yeah. And, I've heard it said, and then I want to get to the final words so we can put a bow on this conversation here today. Thank you for sharing a little bit about that. And yes, I will add it to my list on Audible after that great review. But it's, we really don't have a time management problem. We have a priority management problem. Yes. And so how are we managing our priorities, which will then help us manage our time better? Yep. And that's what you're speaking to right there. And so, brother, I'm so grateful for you. I'm number one, I'm grateful for just our friendship and the way that we've been able to live life together. I'm thankful that you'll be right in
you'll be in the front at my funeral. If you're way healthier than me, you'll probably you'll outlive me. But I'm just I'm just so grateful for you, and I'm thankful again for you taking time here today to invest in me and listeners. The nuggets, the gold that you share was just so good. Thank you so much. We end our time here on the Giving Life podcast with something I call the final word. Just 30 to 60 seconds of whatever the Lord lays on your heart. It could be scripture, could be story, could be whatever that you want a shot of encouragement to listeners today as kind of a final word for you. So what do you got?
Yeah. Okay. Well, scripture, I guess maybe I would say my life verse has been for quite a while, Mark 8:35. For those who want to save their life, will lose it. But for those who are willing to give up their life for the Lord and his gospel, they'll gain everything. And I think if we can live our lives with giving ourselves away, and back to that book, the author says something really profound at the end that just kind of really hit me. And he said, take the best of what you have and take the best of who you are and give it away. And if we all really thought about that, and whether that's to our families, our friends, our communities, that's a life well lived, I think.
Yeah. And
I think the other important thing too, I'm going to reference this book because we brought it up and it's fresh, is, but have joy along the way. It's not, I don't know that God wanted it to be a grind. I think he clearly said, eat, drink, and be merry with those you love. And do it all in the glory of God. And so I'm really testing myself to make sure that I'm trying to do that on a daily basis, that I'm finding those nuggets of joy, that I'm not missing them, that I'm not so focused on the things that didn't go well, or that I'm not so focused on the adversities, that I'm really enjoying the journey of life as I march towards really the ultimate purpose, which is the gates of heaven.
Yeah. So good. So good. Thank you. Thank you for hanging out with me. Thanks for sharing wisdom. I love you. I'm just grateful you're in my life. And this is going to be some good listening for the folks. So appreciate you, bro.
Thanks, Tom.
Well, my friends, that was just leadership gold from Jeff Lautt. Such a fun conversation to have today. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, I can't encourage you enough to share it with others who may want to have some help and meaningful conversation in their life. Don't forget to subscribe. We got a whole great season ahead of us here. Hopefully as good as the Viking season, especially because this is the year. This is the year they're going to go all the way. I just know it's going to happen. Don't forget to hit up resgen.org. Check out all the information about the Men's Summit, as well as all the information for Date Night Comedy, which this year's going to be in January at the Sioux Falls Pavilion. So you're going to want to make sure you check out the information about that as well. All right, thanks for listening. If you want to connect with Jeff anymore, you can find him on LinkedIn. And until we see each other again, continue being men whose life in Christ gives life to others. We'll see you soon.